the situation in the Persian Gulf and with the Strait of Hormuz. As we talk right now, there's some reports in Kuwait that Iran is attacking Kuwait with
Mhm.
drones, not with missiles. And the strait is, as you know, the blockade is back. The strait is closed, and one of the ships, at least we have a footage of a it's a Turkish ship in sinking in the Strait of Hormuz. And here is the footage, Matt.
I had not seen this video. Ooh, that's a. I mean, one is that an oil tanker or is that a tanker? Do you
Yeah,
know?
is that? Yeah, it's a tanker. I don't know what
Yeah.
it's a cargo. I don't know
Yeah.
what
So I
sort of tanker
mean,
is this.
the danger of the environmental, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cost
And
here,
it
right? The environmental content, right? The damage,
removing these things later on is going to be just
and then
quite
those
impossible.
costs. But now I'm sure, all the shippers and all their insurers are saying, "Hey, nobody's going anyplace." Right? I mean, this is. I heard today that 13 Indian sailors have been killed. Uh, over the last few months. You've had at this point, between the Americans that struck 8 ships and the Iranians have struck about the same, probably more. I mean, you're getting close to being able to say dozens of ships have been struck over the last few months. And so, yeah, the shippers and their insurers are going to say, no, we're not doing this. And I know that traffic had gotten. I think there were 6 ships on Sunday. I don't know about Monday, but yesterday there was 21. But now with the American blockade, who knows? Who knows how many are going to get through? And I didn't check oil. Last I saw, it was over $80 a barrel again. Heading steadily back up. So, who knows where this is going to go? I don't think they know where it's going to go. When I say I don't think I'm talking about the Americans. I don't think the Americans know what they're doing here. I really don't think so. I think you and I and everybody else trying to figure out what the heck is going on is a fool's errand. I mean, like, right? We've said this many times before, but we're dealing with a mad king, a mad emperor, and his stooges that are around him. If anyone has any faith in Marco Rubio or JD Vance or Steve Witkoff or any of them, having an idea in their head about how to go forward with this that isn't tied to their own personal interests, I don't know. I mean, so but it doesn't seem as if this fighting is going to end anytime soon. And I know that Donald Trump has said that this could go on for weeks, and that next week they're going to start striking the power plants and the bridges and the other civilian infrastructure. So we'll see if that's the case. Yeah.
JD Vance disappeared again, as you know.
Yeah.
The good cop disappeared from the scene. Right. He's planning for the next round of this deceiving process. Here is what Donald Trump, by the way, said about the Strait.
Very hard. We're hitting every single thing that they have along the shore, along the waterfront. If you look at the Strait of Hormuz, it's now, we're finding it hard to find where they have anything. We have to stop it. We have to keep it open. I was going to charge a fee, but instead they'd rather spend a lot of money in the United States, which frankly is better because I don't like the idea of a fee. It's got to remain free because otherwise others will do the same thing. But I think we've made tremendous progress.
So your objectives are to...
Yeah, and the Americans have been seemingly hitting the area around the Straits of Hormuz quite hard. They've also hit up by Tehran, as well as Bushehr, as well as into more eastern parts of Iran. But if they think that by focusing just on the islands and the coastal areas, in the immediate proximity to the Straits of Hormuz is going to curtail the Iranians' ability to control transit in and out, they're very short-sighted. They fail to understand what actually it means to control the transit in and out of the Gulf. The Iranians could target ships in the Arabian Sea. They could target ships in the Gulf of Oman. They could just target all the ships that are just sitting there in the Persian Gulf. the Iranians don't have. It's the same way too. You got this hyper focus in the U.S. on control of the Straits of the Hormuz, as if literally they're there, manning toll booths, as if they're there in their boats, stopping other boats from going through, or it's the 18th century and they've dragged a giant chain across the straits to close it off. This obsession with the physical quality of control, when it's not. This is a control by fire. I mean, so the idea is not about actually the physical straits, but rather the confidence in the shipping companies and their insurers as to whether or not they can navigate in and out of the Persian Gulf without having their ships being destroyed. It doesn't matter if a ship is struck in the dead center of the Straits of Hormuz, or if it's struck someplace in the northern part of the Persian Gulf, or, all the way out in the Arabian Sea. The meaning is still there. The intent is still there. And so this hyper focus on controlling the Straits of Hormuz misses the point as to what do the Iranians actually control. And they control navigation. They control shipping and transit throughout the entirety of the Persian Gulf, not just simply, those narrow straits. I mean, it's easy to focus on the straits. Of course, they're important. Don't get me wrong, but we're missing the overall reality here that the Iranians control transit in and out of the Persian Gulf by fire, and not by physically having a presence on the Straits of Hormuz or in the Straits of Hormuz where they are physically stopping ships.
There are 2 points, Matt. One of them is what Donald Trump said. Instead of having a toll system, which he was mentioning 20%, it means that some people within the administration told him, don't say that. We were advocating no toll system. You're legitimizing that. That's
I liked Abbas Arachi's response, saying, hey, he's got it right. If this is costing you something, you should be reimbursed, but we'll do it for a much more fairer price,
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you say that these GCC countries going to invest in the United States, and instead of, compensating us because of what we are doing in the Strait of Hormuz, supporting them or supporting a free passage in the Strait of Hormuz. He said that they're going to invest in the United States on one hand. On the other hand, in the other video that you've mentioned, he said that in the next week, we're going to attack Iranian power plants. There are going to be infrastructures in Iran being hit by the United States. It means that Iran going to retaliate the same way as we've been witnessing with the war. Every time you hit something in Iran, they're going to respond the same way. If they attack the power plants in these countries, or somehow if it goes to the oil facilities, energy facilities, maybe going down, and it's going to be desalination plants, this is going to be huge for these countries. How are they going to be able to invest in the United States with that sort of difficulties?
No, they won't be able to. They won't be able to. I mean, how are they going to invest anywhere if they have no revenue? How are they going to invest anywhere if they have to pull money from their current investments, right, from their current holdings, in order to backstop their failing economies? I mean, we saw this back in April. The Emiratis supposedly came to the American Treasury Department and said, hey, look, we need a currency swap. We need a bailout, essentially. You need to give us, just like you did for Malay in Argentina, you need to give us a $20 billion currency swap, or else, we're going to be in very, very bad situation here. So no, they can't. I mean, and not only that, it's just not investment from the rest of the world, from the GCC countries. It's the entire world economy. There won't be investment from anywhere. If you have a return to the war, like is being spoken about, with this attack on this energy infrastructure, as well as other civilian infrastructure, the destruction of the Gulf countries' infrastructure by the Iranians seems to be almost guaranteed. Right? This is what the Iranians have said they would do, and we saw them in the March and April campaigns demonstrate that ability to carry out such attacks, to be precise in their targeting, to know exactly where to hit to shut down, say, natural gas production in Qatar, the world's largest producer of natural gas, or second largest, I guess, maybe third after the Russians. But yeah, anyway, regardless, the Qataris produce a fifth of the world's national gas, and the Iranians were able to shut down 1/5 of that supply for 4 to 5 years because of their attacks on the Qatari infrastructure. So yeah, I mean, it's not a question then of just the Gulf states not investing in the U.S. It's a question of anybody investing in the U.S. because we'll be heading into a worldwide depression, and nobody will be putting money anywhere else but into themselves. It's just the reality of how it's going to be. And you've already seen, though, too, the various where was this? A couple of months ago, the indications were that the majority of family offices, so the investment firms that run the fortunes, of the richest, outside of the United States, family offices were not going to be investing in the United States. That there was concern about, of course, just this government and its chaos and its uncertainty and its unpredictability, but as well too, pending bond crisis in the United States, just overall structural issues with the American economy, but as well too the belief that this is all eventually going to weaken the dollar. That whatever strength the dollar has maintained over the last year or so is chimeric, is chimeral, right? It doesn't. It's not going to keep that up. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's not just a question, Nima, of as you were saying, these states not putting money into this, which is something that Donald Trump boasts about all the time. He boasts about 17 or 19 trillion dollars in foreign investment in the U.S. I think those numbers are exaggerated quite a bit. But if this continues, there's not going to be any investment anywhere. Because the world will be heading into a global depression if the energy infrastructure in the Gulf is destroyed.
Talking about the cost of the war so far, it was based on what Pentagon reported. It has publicly estimated that the war cost roughly $30 billion. And what we have, the internal U.S. government estimates, they're talking about the cost was between 80 to 100 billion dollars. This is the estimation, which was reported on NBC News, Matt.
Right.
And when he's talking about compensation, basically he's asking all these GCC countries paying for that.
Right. I mean, this goes back years. This goes back decades. This idea in the United States that pushed by politicians that our wars are going to be paid for by others. And there is some truth to it with the Iraq War, the first Iraq War, the Persian Gulf War, where the Gulf states did contribute quite a bit. I don't know if it was fully paid for as the George H.W. Bush administration claimed, but there at least was some attempt there. And then, of course, you have the reality of the Iraq War. How the belief was that war would pay for itself. Cost would be minimal to begin with, but that war would pay for itself. That, of course, never happened. And so, even to Donald Trump running for election in 2016, he was going to make the Mexican government pay for the wall he was going to build on the Mexican-American border. That didn't happen. So there's always this fantasy. There's always this proposal to make the other folks pay for this, to make other countries pay for it, or that the war would pay for itself, right? So now with maybe this idea of, Donald Trump said it's not going to be a 20% fee for the United States becoming the guardian angels of the Straits of Hormuz, or however he described it, but that there would be trade agreements that will recompensate the Americans. So, yeah, I mean, this idea that the United States is doing it for them and that they're ungrateful and that they should be paying us because, and this also too gets into, we can expand this conversation to NATO as well. Donald Trump's, fixated on that. But that was something that was not entirely Donald Trump. You go back to the Barack Obama administration. Barack Obama is talking about how NATO is not pulling its weight. I mean, I don't think those are the words he used, but essentially Barack Obama was making the case that the European nations had to pay more for their collective defense. They had to contribute more than they had traditionally had, and the United States would not be contributing as much. And certainly we saw a drawdown in forces in Europe during the Obama years. And this was all some of it because you had the wars in Iraq, wars in Afghanistan, and wars against the Islamic State, of course. But as well, too, you had this idea, this fantasy, the continual fantasy of the pivot to Asia and the confrontation with China. And so the United States can't keep spending money on the Middle East and can't keep spending money on Europe because we need that money to focus on China. So this is a very fanciful idea that gets floated to justify the war, to make it seem as if the war is not going to be so bad, as, hey, we might make money off of this thing. And, everybody in DC seems to use it for their war of choice.
He said that GCC countries wanted me to be there in the Persian Gulf if they want to pay for the war. And this is the war. I don't know what is the perception in most of these GCC countries, but I am sure they're not that stupid that they feel that they can defeat Iran with this sort of attacks. Just tit for tat, hitting some target is going to last forever. You're not going to achieve any sort of outcome by these attacks. So it means that as long as the United States is going to stay there, you're going to pay for that.
Right.
So...
Right, as well as too, we've seen rumors and whispers and gossip, if you will, over the last few months about these states, these Gulf states, wanting to have a rapprochement, right, with the Iranians, wanting to, after this is over, to settle into a new relationship with the Iranians. Certainly, you had the establishment of relations between the Saudis and the Iranians. What was that, 2022, 2023? And so. There is a foundation for that. You have reports over the last couple of months of the Qataris and the Emiratis striking separate deals with the Iranians, possibly giving the Iranians money so the Iranians wouldn't hit them. That's one of the more favored theories out there. I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly you're exactly right, Nima. Where does this go, and where do they think it's going to go? And they can't believe at all that their contributions to this are going to tip the balance. They can't believe at all that their participation in this war, with their limited abilities to carry out strikes in Iran, are going to make a difference, and that's going to force Iranian capitulation, as well as just the logic of what's on the other side of this. Iran is not going anywhere. And so you could either work towards having Iran that you can partner with, that you can trade with, that you can have reasonable relationships with, or you can continue to serve the interests of the United States with what? The hope of Iran imploding, with the hope of Iran becoming a failed state? Is that what you're contributing to trying to achieve here? In sense of your own self interest, that would be extremely disastrous. This idea of a 92 million person state failing right next door to you. Why would any sane leader, why would any sane government choose to go along with something like that? So I think some of their attacks, I think, is purely performative. They have to do it for, they're hitting us. We have to hit back. Yeah, that's understandable. But I think some of it too is this notion that they are being pressured by the Americans to take part, as well as this reality that the United States and these Gulf Arab countries have had very long partnerships now. These states have been vassals of the American empire for quite a long time now. And so those relationships that have existed individually or institutionally in the security services, in the governments, I think they are predisposed to doing what's in the best interest of the American empire, because it was those interests that got them to the positions that they are now. Right. So, I think there's a lot of that's still there as well. But I know you watch this and you just shake your head and say, what the heck are they doing?